Good afternoon and welcome to our live coverage of the Revier derby between Borussia Dortmund and Schalke. Commentary with myself, Harry Symeou, and some expert analysis from Lee Scott alongside me. Lee, welcome. First of all, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Harry. How are you? Looking forward to football being back.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I feel your pain. It's been a difficult couple of months. Obviously, the reasons behind football stopping are completely understandable and we all get it. But
Yes,
it is lovely, isn't it, to see a game of football back on and live and some entertainment, isn't it, if nothing else?
exactly. I mean, I think that we all fully understand why football is locked down. There was no doubt it was the right thing to do. Still remains to be seen whether coming back is the right thing to do. But I think that with all the precautions that they're taking place around the Bundesliga, if one league was going to serve as the test for other leagues, I think that the German Bundesliga would probably be that one because they're so well organised.
Absolutely, they are indeed. Of course, the Bundesliga is back, as you've just mentioned, and we'll be taking you through the entire 90 minutes, offering you an alternative soundtrack to the match. Lee is Total Football Analysis' lead analyst, fountain of football knowledge, but above all, a gentleman, and I'm sure you're going to thoroughly enjoy his thoughts on today's game. Now, this particular derby is usually extremely colourful. We're certain it will be as passionate as always on the field, but of course there are no fans in attendance due to the current climate. Lee, in your view, how much of an impact will that have on this fixture?
I mean, in terms of general atmosphere, of course, the players are bound to notice. I think that there are some players who almost raise their game dependent on the atmosphere within the ground. That's why some players perform better at home than away because they're used to having that vocal support from the fans. But I think on a more basic level, I think we've seen reports this week that some coaches in Germany have been working on hand signals for their players so that they can convey tactical messages to the players as opposed to obviously shouting vocally because the opposition will be able to hear everything they say. So if you're telling a player to change position or you're telling your team to change formation, the other team are going to know straight away if you're being vocal about it. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they handle that. I think that the one thing we have to bear in mind is that we're not sure exactly what the condition of the players is going to look like. They've had that much of a layoff. They have been back in training, but how much that training has resembled what it looks like on a full time basis, we're not sure. There could be a lull almost as you get at the start of every season when players are feeling their way back into action a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see how that affects both teams. Compare the way that they were on a run beforehand, before the lockdown happened. Dortmund were challenging towards the top of the table, while Schalke were struggling. So it'll be interesting to see whether they kind of on an even footing now, if you like.
Absolutely. Now, looking at the form of the two sides, Lucien Favre's side will, of course, have been the strong favourites had this game taken place when it should have taken place. But that's pretty much gone out of the window now, hasn't it? Because neither side have played a competitive fixture since early March.
No, exactly. I think that Schalke are perhaps the most interesting case because they had struggled quite as much as they have since the resumption of the second half of the Bundesliga season before the lockdown. They'd only won one game following the winter break, and that's after a strong start to the season under their coach, David Wagner, obviously the ex-Huddersfield coach. I think that in the last two games before the lockdown, we actually saw a change of system. Schalke started off playing either a 4-2 or a 4-4-2 at the start of the season, and the high energy, high pressing game was very much there. In the last two games before the lockdown, we saw a switch to a 5-4-1, which is obviously more of a defensive balance. In those two games, they played Bayern Munich in the last game before lockdown, and although they lost 1-0 to Bayern Munich, they held Bayern to under 1 xG, so there weren't a lot of clear cut chances for the game. I expect that we'll see the same today. I think that, again, touching upon the condition of the players, I don't think physically that we're going to see much high aggression, high pressing, if you like. I think that we'll see Schalke dropping into a bit of a block, a deep defensive compact block, and we're going to see Dortmund try to find a way to break through them.
Absolutely. I agree totally there. Let's run through the two sides and then we'll get your thoughts on those two sides. Now, of course, the big news coming out of this one is, of course, there's no Jadon Sancho for Borussia Dortmund. He is on the bench. Taking you through the starting 11, it's Roman Berkey in goal. It's a back three of Lucas Piszczek, Matt Hummels and Manuel Akanji. Ashraf Hakimi and Rafael Guerrero will play in what I assume will be the wing-back positions, with Mahmoud Dahoud and Thomas Delaney in the middle, and then Julian Brandt from the right, Giovanni Reina from the left, and Erling Braut Haaland through the middle. Let's start with the Dortmund team. Were you surprised to see Sancho left out, or do you think it's down to conditioning, like you were saying earlier?
I think there have been reports this week that he's had a bit of a knock, whether that's the case or not. Jadon Sancho has been having an incredible season. He's been one of the top performers, not just for Dortmund, not just in the Bundesliga, but in all of football in terms of his goals and assists. He's been staggering for him. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about whether this will be his last season in Germany, and there's been some instances where he's fallen out with the coach and been left out of the side at various times. But that said, conditioning could be an issue, and there have been reports of a slight knock. What is interesting is that they've gone for the 17-year-old Giovanni Reina as his replacement. I think that a lot of fans will be tuning in just to see what Reina can do. Dortmund, after all, have got a real reputation over recent seasons of being able to identify and sign these young players and then give them the first team minutes that they need to develop quickly. So we could see the rise of the player who will potentially take over from Sancho if he does leave Dortmund.
Absolutely. Let's look at the Schalke team. Of course, the visitors today, Marcus Schubert in goal. It's a back three of Jean-Claire Todibo, Salif Sane and Matija Nastasic. I don't know if they're quite wing backs or if this is a 3-4-2-1, whatever you want to call it. But John Joe Kenny and Bastian Okzipka will be playing in those wide positions. Central midfield, Weston McKennie and Suat Serdar, with Daniel Caligiuri and Amine Harit playing a supporting role to Benito Rahman up top. What do you make of Schalke's lineup, and any surprises there?
I don't think so. I think the big surprise is the miss of Kabak, the Turkish centre half, who's been in great form for Schalke this season. He's not even made the subs bench, so I'm not sure again if there's an injury or if there's a problem with conditioning. Schalke have been very impressive in the first half of the season. They were very good defensively throughout, but in front of goal they've really struggled. And it's interesting to see Michael Gregoric and Guido Burgstaller both on the bench. They're two players who they would traditionally have played up front. I think we'll see Benito Rahman, the Belgian striker, has got great pace. I think they'll try to stretch Dortmund using that in transition. But whether they can or not, because the rest of the team doesn't possess a whole lot of pace. I mean, Harit, the Moroccan attacking midfielder, is very, very good on the ball, very creative. But whether he'll see enough of the ball against this Dortmund team to make an impact, I think really remains to be seen.
Absolutely. Looking at the two benches, you've mentioned a couple of the players on that Schalke bench, but the Dortmund bench really stands out, doesn't it? Of course, Jadon Sancho's on there, Mario Götze's on there, Thorgan Hazard's on there. So there's a lot of quality for Lucien Favre to call upon if things aren't quite going his team's way.
Definitely, I think that there's a lot of different options, different ways they can go. I fully believe that at some point during the game we will see Sancho. I think the prospect of having a player like Sancho being able to come on in the second half when the opposition are tired and he can threaten them with his pace and direct running, I think that'll be something that's very, very important. Mario Götze obviously has struggled since his big breakthrough under Jurgen Klopp in his initial spell with Dortmund. He's had well-noted medical issues over the years that have impacted his ability to play football at the highest level, which could explain why he's fallen off from it. At one point, he was thought to be the heir apparent to Lionel Messi, and we all remember that goal in the World Cup final as well. I think that Thorgan Hazard as well is a player who can come on, slightly more functional perhaps than Jadon Sancho, but still very dangerous in the final third. So there's a lot of different ways I think that Dortmund can go if they need to.
Absolutely. It's almost surreal, isn't it? Now we're seeing pictures of the players gathering in the tunnel. All the staff and the substitutes are wearing masks. Of course, the players who are actually taking part are not. But it's really weird, isn't it? It's such a surreal atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is something that we're going to have to get used to for the near future. For any live sport anywhere in the world to take place, these precautions are important. I think that the players, we saw them earlier on coming off the bus when they arrived at the stadium, and all the players then were wearing masks. Thankfully, they're not having to in the field. I think that would really impact on communication for one thing and nothing else, and being able to verbally communicate with your teammates, which is such an important thing in football.
Absolutely. It is strange seeing it because, of course, the Signal Iduna Park is renowned for its fantastic atmosphere and its colour, and in particular the yellow wall. So now to see empty seats, it just feels so strange, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've seen. I mean, there have been instances over the years where this has happened when clubs, for example, have had crowd trouble in European games or international qualifiers, for example, and they've had to play games behind closed doors. And even then, it's just such a strange way to see the game that we all love. But again, you understand why. It would be great if we could have fans in. I think that Signal Iduna Park is one of the grounds that's on most people's bucket list to follow to visit
Absolutely.
at some point, just for that atmosphere. And it will be interesting to see whether it levels the playing field slightly between the two sides, not having that home support.
Indeed. Let's talk a little bit about Erling Braut Haaland. He was just up on the screen. What an absolute bargain he was. Signed in January for £18 million from Red Bull Salzburg. He scored 12 goals in 11 appearances and provided 2 assists. 19 years old. The sky really is the limit for this player, isn't it?
Absolutely. His development's been unreal ever since he really started to take strides at Molde in Norway. I think that, along with his father, who advises him very well, Alfie Ingehallen, the ex-Leeds player, I think that there's a lot of sensible progression in his career, which is important for a young player, and which is something we don't always see. From Norway, sorry, when he played for Molde, there were options for him to move straight away to England, Germany, Spain, Italy. The options were all there, but he chose the Stepping Stone League, which was obviously the Austrian Bundesliga, when he joined Red Bull Salzburg. As it turns out, I don't think anybody expected him to explode in Austria the way that he did. His performances over the first half of the season, not just domestically, but in the Champions League, where he scored goal after goal after goal in the group stage for the Austrian side. I think that almost made it impossible for him to stay for the entire season in
Yeah.
Austria, and that's why he made the move after 6 months. But I think that he's such an interesting player because he challenges our perceptions. When you look at him on the pitch, he's so big and so physical. We all have this unconscious bias when we see a striker of that size. We automatically think, here's a player that wants the ball into feet. But Haaland isn't that. When you watch him play, you'll see him today. He's constantly looking for space between the defenders, and then he's constantly asking for the ball to be played in behind the defensive line. So watch out for that. He's got great pace and he looks to stretch the defensive line with runs in behind. But he can link up play, but he always prefers to be running onto the ball and facing goal, which is really interesting.
Fantastic. Some top level analysis once again from Lee. That's why he's here. That's why he's here. Lee is a great analyst, and I'm so looking forward to doing a game alongside you. And I can't wait for it to get started. We are just a moment or so away from kickoff. Interestingly, the substitutes benches, they've made some real modifications there, haven't they? The players are spread apart.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I didn't expect that, given that, of course, they would have been training together. And all of that. I was surprised to see that, but it seems sensible. Players are gathered around the centre circle. We're about to kick off here at the Signal Iduna Park. It's Borussia Dortmund versus Schalke in the Revier Derby. As again, keep saying it, and I'm sure we're going to say it many more times throughout this broadcast. It feels surreal, but we are just so grateful to have football back, and I'm sure you're feeling the same way, Lee.
Definitely. I think it's something we've all missed. I mean, at Total Football Analysis, we've been slightly lucky in that our analysis content, we've been able to keep things churning out because we don't rely as much on live football, if you like. We do carry match analysis, and it's worth saying now that on Monday morning, you will be able to read full tactical analysis on every game that's played in the Bundesliga today. We will be putting every game out there, every game's being covered. But we've been able to do different things. Some people who rely on football for a living, whether it's journalists, whether they're freelance, have been really struggling without live football to catch the public's imagination. And now, for a step back to normality in the middle of this pandemic, I think there is something quite comforting almost for people to be able to sit and watch football, even if it is in a slightly strange atmosphere.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Teams are just having a little bit of a warm-up on the pitch still. The referee taking his time to come onto the field. He's there now, and it looks like we're almost ready to get underway. Still not done the toss yet. He's called the two captains over. Deniz Aytekin is the referee today. Two captains stand alongside him. Lucas Piszczek for Dortmund. Oh, yep, Christian Dietz and Eduard Bettinger are the linesmen, and Benjamin Brand is the fourth official.
Maybe a step away from analysis, but there's a good trivia question in the Dortmund side. Do you want it?
Go ahead.
You name the two players that were born in England.
Two players that were born in England. I could tell you one of them straight away. I'll have to
Yeah.
have a think about. Actually, I've got the second one, I think, as well. But we'll leave it for our listeners. We'll reveal the answer at half time, and we're
Sounds
underway
good.
here at the Signal Iduna Park. It's Dortmund versus Schalke. Football is back. The Bundesliga is back, and here's Matt Hummels on the ball at the moment, taking his time, plays it out to that left-hand side to Akanji, and you can see the wing backs just dropping that bit deeper to receive the ball. Is that something that we expect to see plenty of today, Lee?
When Schalke press, you will. When Schalke press up in the balls in defensive line, you'll see the ball side, so the wing back nearest the ball will drop back to provide that option. But normally with Dortmund, what they do is the centre backs spread out really wide, like you see now, and that tends to allow the wing backs to move higher towards the halfway line. Hakimi on the right, especially, has such extremely great pace that you will see him look to stretch in behind for passes that come over from Mats Hummels in the centre.
Brilliant stuff. Hakimi has been very useful for Dortmund in the final third as well this season. 7 goals and 10 assists. Of course, he's on loan from Real Madrid. Here's Hummels, plays it to his right to Lucas Piszczek, takes a touch, plays it into the midfield. It's laid off back to Hummels and back out to Akanji on this left-hand side. Guerrero plays it inside as Dortmund look to build something here. Schalke, have they got 3 in the middle of the park there? Is it slightly different to what we imagined? It certainly looks that way at the minute.
It looks as though it is. It's going to be quite fluid depending on whether they're in or out of possession. You tend to see formations that don't stay the same as soon as the ball starts moving. Different players are moving to different positional slots depending where the ball is. So for the first few minutes, I think it tends to be a little bit chaotic, and then things should settle down a little.
They're pressing pretty high up the field here, and they've got possession back after forcing an error from the Dortmund defenders. That's the kind of thing that David Wagner would like to see. But is there a danger of Schalke getting a little bit carried away? Is there a danger of them playing I guess, into Dortmund's hands here?
Yeah, there's always a danger if Schalke get too caught up in possession and they push too far forward. Dortmund are very, very quick in transition. We've already touched upon how quick Kimi is. Erling Haaland is exactly the same, and they will be very, very fast to stretch that space in behind if they can.
Here come Dortmund looking to engineer an opportunity early on. Just 2 minutes played here as Schalke are now breaking forward. Still coming forward, Schalke, ball towards the right-hand side, but cut out there by Guerrero, who'd worked his way back, and now it's Dortmund looking to build something from a deeper position. Schalke have it back, though. Neither side looking particularly comfortable in possession, but are we expecting a little bit of a scrappy game here? Because these teams haven't played so long, are we going to see a bit of a broken up football match here?
I think in the initial stages we will, but I think what we just saw was something that Schalke struggle with in terms of their play in the final third. I've touched upon the fact that Harit is very, very creative and a good passer. Weston McKennie, who you saw with the ball there as he tried to force the ball through to the right hand side for Schalke, is a good midfielder. He's very aggressive, very powerful, very quick. He's a good engine, if you like, gets back and forward very well, but his passing sometimes lets him down when he enters the final third. So that's an improvement that he needs to work on in his game.
Schalke putting some pressure on Dortmund there. Made their way into the penalty area. David Wagner will be pretty pleased with what he's seen from the first 3 minutes here. You've got to imagine.
Yeah, they're pressing extremely high. You can see the line of the players there, the Schalke players. I was expecting them to drop more down towards the halfway line, and maybe that is something we'll see going forward as the game goes on. But at the moment, they're looking to win the ball back as high as possible.
Even pressing Berkey in the Dortmund goal as they look to work their way out of trouble here with Matt Hummels. Ball played forward.
Here's where Dortmund are really dangerous. Now, when they move it to this area, you'll see the overlap on the right-hand side, and that's where they'll try and break through.
Here's Erling Haaland, makes his way into the penalty area, but out comes Schubert in the Schalke goal. He was quick there, he was alert there, and thankfully for Schalke, he was able to prevent Haaland breaking through completely free onto the goal. But he done some good work here, almost bundled his way through.
Yeah. He's very effective. I mean, that again, we talk about the fact that he likes to stretch in behind, but he does have this kind of style where players bounce off him. He's got that physique, which is so impressive, and defenders must hate playing against him.
Absolutely. And guys, don't forget, if you're watching us via the Total Football Analysis YouTube channel, download the Hot Mic app using the promo code TFA2020 and you'll be able to sync the commentary to your television set, therefore giving you the full Hot Mic experience. It's a fantastic app, great technology, and why not take advantage of Lee's excellent analysis whilst you're watching the game on your television? You know it makes sense, so head over there now and check that out. Of course, if you do wish to stay on YouTube, that's fine as well, but we're just looking to enhance your experience as Schalke look to create something. It's Dortmund that are behind the ball now as it's played out to this left-hand side to Oxigpa. Here's Harit driving inside. Skips past one man, brought down just a little bit outside of the D. The Schalke free kick. Mahmoud Dahoud giving away the foul there. But is that what you expect from Harit? For him to pick up the ball and drive at people and earn his team free kicks in those dangerous positions?
He's very much a player who plays outside to in. So when you get players who play in the wide areas, there's one or two different kind of profiles you expect. The traditional winger will try and go outside and then cut back at the penalty area when he gets alongside. And then Harry is an inside forward, an inverted player who looks to come inside all the time. He'll look to drift into half spaces where he can make space. But you saw his trickery and footwork there.
Looks like Caliuri is poised to hit this. There's a couple of Schalke players standing over it. We're not sure who it's going to be, but Caliuri looks poised. Strikes it right-footed. It's into the wall. Comes back out to Schalke's number 5, Matija Nastasic, as they look to come forward once more. Dortmund all camped behind the ball pretty much, apart from 2 players here, 3 players even. Are they missing Jadon Sancho's pace on the break? We'll see now, because Dortmund have won it back and they're on the counter-attack. It's Erling Braut Haaland. Appeals for a foul there, but Dortmund carry on. They've got men flooding forward here as a shot from the edge of the box. From Thorgan Hazard, nowhere near troubling Marcus Schubert, though, in the Schalke goal. And he just fights off the challenge there, turns into space, drives forward, strikes it from range. He's never going to trouble Schubert from there, is he?
No, it's a difficult chance, but I think that at this point they were just looking to release a little bit of the pressure. Schalke had a little bit of the ball, they had that free kick, they had a chance. It was a good opportunity for Dortmund to hit them on the counter-attack. But you see the lack of fluidity already. That ball would have moved quite much faster had Dortmund had a little bit more condition, a little bit more time in the pitch, I think.
Julian Brandt there in your picture, of course, the former Bayer Leverkusen man.
He's one of the key players for Dortmund in this match. I think he quite an interesting character. He initially came through as a left winger or a striker, but gradually last season and the season before he got moved back at a centre midfield role. So he plays very much as a number 8 in the centre midfield now, and that's where he's been signed to play for Dortmund. Very good ball carrier and very good at receiving in between the lines. So he's a dangerous option for Dortmund as they attack.
Indeed, here come Dortmund once more. Here is Brandt on the ball. Here's Haaland. Plays Brandt in behind there, but the pass was slightly too long. Gathered by Marcus Schubert.
That's not something you expect from Haaland. Not a lot of people expect to see him playing those passes, but his assist numbers at Salzburg were actually very good, purely because he's such a handful. He attracts defenders towards him, and that creates space for other people.
Here come Dortmund once more with possession across their backline as they look to knock the ball around and open those spaces. Schalke very much in their shape at the moment, and they've started pretty well, I'd say. I think David Wagner will be happy with what he's seen.
Yeah, I think he'd be delighted. I mean, I don't think we quite expected Schalke to be this effective and to be this aggressive. So it's definitely an interesting start to the game, but whether they've got instructions to kind of drop back a little bit deeper as the game goes on, I think that'll be interesting.
Who's gone out for a throw-in for Schalke on this near side. It's going to be taken by Bastian Oxigpa. Schalke number 24. David Wagner barking out instructions to his players there. Ball in behind, down the channel, but Hummels comes across and deals with it. No nonsense there. Knocks it long towards Haaland. Ball's broken nicely here for Thorgan Hazard. He's brought down. The referee's blown for a Dortmund free kick. It was Nastasic who gave away the free kick. Referee's going to have a quick word with Nastasic. How has he done in the German Bundesliga? Of course, had some time in the Premier League, didn't he?
Nastasic has done very well. He was linked in the last couple of years to a bigger move away from Schalke, but I think he's almost found a club where he's comfortable at following his time at Manchester City. There was never any doubt about his defensive ability, but he plays best. He's most comfortable in a deep defensive compact block. When you ask him to come out and pass the ball, he struggles a little bit then.
Ball into the box from Brandt. Haaland's at the far post. Peels for a corner. Are they going to get it, though? Looks like they haven't got it. Based on the fact that the players are walking away, will the offside decision? Maybe.
Yeah.
Couple
Looks
of players
like the
there.
offside there as the ball came in.
I think it was Matt Hummels who just straight offside. Dortmund were appealing for a handball there off of Kenny, but that would have been harsh, wouldn't it? Such close range.
I think so. You never know exactly how it's going to go with handball these days, but I think that opportunities like that, when the ball comes into the back of the area, are very dangerous for defenders when they're trying to react and run back towards their own goal and defend space. That's where you do see a lot of penalties given away.
Sounds like the referee is having some sort of communication with the VAR because he's taken a pause here. 10 minutes in, Dortmund 0, Schalke 0. Don't forget, if you're watching on the Total Football Analysis YouTube channel, you can join us on the Hot Mic app and sync the audio with your television pictures. The VAR's having a real good look at this, aren't they?
I think so. And again, you never know exactly which way it's going to go these days. I think that now, after 10 minutes, we're going to see the game settle down. I think after the aggressive start from Schalke, and Dortmund have had a couple of chances in transition. As the referee's given a decision now, it looks like no pen.
Yep, no pen. Play on.
Okay. Look at Dortmund's positioning from here. Look how high up they're pressing. Schalke's centre defenders are right back in the penalty area in the same line as the ball, and Dortmund are looking to prevent them from playing up comfortably and trying to make them hit long, just as they have.
Goal kick does go long. Do you think, though, and I want to ask you this from an analysis point of view, Lee, when teams do that, when they ask their two centre-backs essentially to drop on the corners of the 6-yard box for a goal kick, is that not inviting pressure? I mean, I understand the benefits of it when it works and when you suck people in and you play the ball around them, but if it goes wrong, you're essentially playing everybody on side, and it's a little bit dangerous, isn't it?
It is risky. I mean, the benefits there, you're looking for the passes in the next line, so behind the players that are pressing the ball. So there were 4 Dortmund players pressing right up on the edge of the penalty area.
Sorry to interrupt you there. Here come Dortmund. They're inside the Schalke penalty box. Ball across the penalty area. It's deflected and cleared away in the end. Sorry to cut you off there, Lee, with Dortmund.
No,
closing
that's the danger of Hakimi. He's so quick breaking into the area in those situations. He's very dangerous in terms of his assists and goals.
A little bit of a wayward pass there to Matt Hummels, but it's no harm done. Lucas Piszczek will pick it up. Plays it back to Hummels, takes a touch. Dortmund are looking a little bit more sharp in this last few seconds. Ball over the top in search of, I think it was Erling Braut Haaland who'd made the move in behind the Schalke defence there. Dortmund again pressing very, very high up the field as Todibo looks to play his way out of trouble, and he's won a throw-in from the Borussia Dortmund man. And we just see it again. Dortmund got him behind here too. 3 players arriving in the penalty area, and crucial interception there from the Schalke defender.
It's the movements that you'll see from Reina, who seems to be playing out on that same side as Hakimi. When he moves in from either the wing or the half space, he moves centrally, and that pulls the Schalke team in towards him to cover his space and prevent the overload. And that's creating space wide, which is where Hakimi will really, really thrive. If you can get that ball played through just like that into space, allow him to use his pace, allow him to stretch the opposition defensive line, and he'll break through time and time again.
Here come Dortmund once more, but Schalke defender there, Salif Sane, will shepherd it back to Marcus Schubert in the Dortmund goal. Neither keeper has really had a save to make as of yet, but Dortmund starting to look like they're clicking into gear a little bit. Haaland, they're asking for the referee to take some action. He feels that Schubert's held on to the ball for too long there as Hummels gets underneath it and is headed back eventually to Roman Bürki in the Dortmund goal. They did out short, put themselves under a little bit of pressure once again, didn't they? And I completely appreciate that this is a tactic, but this is something that we see far more commonly, isn't it, in the European game rather than the Premier League?
Yeah, I think that you're perhaps showing your bias a little bit as an Arsenal fan here, Harry. You're talking about the defenders trying to play with the ball and they build up from the back. I think that it depends on the comfort. I mean, Dortmund playing with three centre halves, even if Schalke press with two players, there'll always be one player who's over for an advantage, and that's what they tend to be looking for. They're looking to suck Schalke up towards them, just as you said earlier on. They're looking to suck them in towards them and then to occupy the spaces just behind that line, and that's how they'll build through.
Here come Dortmund now pushing through into the penalty area once more. Shot across goal. Shot/cross, whatever you want to call it. But Dortmund have won a corner as a result.
I think we're seeing Reina occupy those same spaces that Jadon Sancho would, so it seems like a direct like-for-like replacement. We're not quite seeing if he has that turn of pace to get beyond the defensive line as well, but from a technical perspective, he's extremely good in the ball. He's got very quick feet and he's got a low centre balance, which means that he can control and hold off the defenders very, very well.
All cleared out there. It's a Dortmund throw-in. Haaland there in your picture. Real danger man, as we've been discussing already. Here's Hummels.
There you can see the line of three defenders, and they're spreading across the width of the pitch to give them space to play out and pass the press.
Schalke are doing their bit in this game, though, as well. They're pressing very, very well at the moment, but there are spaces in behind, as you've seen here.
Yeah. They're working extremely hard. They're trying to prevent the ball from progressing, which is important. You don't want to let Dortmund have easy progression of the ball because they are so dangerous in the final third.
Is that sustainable, though? Can they last playing like this for 90 minutes? Or?
Usually, no. Very few teams can sustain a high press like that because of the danger. Like you say, it's not just physical. From a mental point of view, you've got to be switched on so well. The players behind that press have to be controlling space and controlling the men in front of them as well. So one little mistake can lead to a breakthrough on goal. That's what makes it so difficult. But it's quite an effective way to play. We've already seen that Dortmund are struggling to get safe possession in the final third.
Dortmund have had 57% of the possession so far in comparison to Schalke, who have had 43%. We spoke in the build-up to the game about the fact that Schalke's problems have been in front of goal, really. It's something that they really, really need to improve on as they look to cause some damage to this Borussia Dortmund side. The ball played over the top in search of the wide man who had gotten forward. It's gone out for a Dortmund goal kick.
Schalke have traditionally struggled in front of goal. It's been a position problem for them for the last few years. Their defence, midfield, even goalkeepers, they tend to be very, very strong, especially centrally. But look out for a player on the bench, 20-year-old Ahmed Kutucu, who's a young striker who's came through the Schalke youth system. He looks very, very good and sharp in front of goal. But just remains to be seen whether he gets any minutes later on in the game.
Here is Piszczek inside his own penalty area. Not under any real pressure, though. Dortmund look to play the ball forward and move into that next phase. Here's Hakimi inside to Delaney. What's the download on Thomas Delaney, Lee? A player that I'm assuming most who don't watch the Bundesliga regularly probably won't know a great deal about.
He's an interesting character. It was quite a surprise, actually, when he signed for Dortmund because he's never been a midfielder who really stands out when you look at the game through a tactical or from a data perspective, but he's such an important link player.
Here come Dortmund on this right-hand side. Interception from the Schalke man, but there's an opportunity to get it into the penalty area if they can take it. Instead, it's intercepted there by Serdar, the Schalke midfield player. He's won a throw-in for his troubles as well, and the away side can take a breather for a moment. Sorry to cut you there, Lee. Go ahead.
That's okay. Delaney isn't a player who you really see standing out in the attacking phase or in the defensive phase. He tends to be somebody who does a little bit of both. So he's a good passer. He's a good creative passer. He can switch to play very well, and he's got a good shot on him. But he doesn't tend to score that many goals. Defensively, he uses his body position and he presses very well to cut off passing lanes. But he isn't somebody who traditionally we see involved in a lot of tackles and interceptions. It's more about what he does to prevent the other team from progressing the ball rather than what he does actively to win the ball back.
Here's Matt Hummels in possession now. Schalke once again very, very high up the pitch. Lovely bit of skill there from the Number 19, Julian Brandt there.
You can see Brand now is trying to drift from the left to the right. He's trying to get on the ball in those pockets of space. Look at him now. You'll see him move in behind that Schalke defender to try and get on the ball. He's in space. And as the ball comes to him, usually he looks forward. So it's quite unusual for him to set the ball back like that in that situation.
Here come Dortmund once more. Here's Brandt in possession now. As you said, popping up on the left, popping up in the middle, on the right. He's everywhere so far, looking to find a bit of room to make that difference, of course. 19 at nearly 20 minutes played here at the Signal Iduna Park. It's Dortmund 0, Schalke 0. Schalke have a throw in on that far side. Dahoud not necessarily happy with the decision. It's Kenny who will take the throw in. Just short of the halfway line on that far side for Schalke. How much of an impact do you think the atmosphere is having so far, Lee? We keep speaking about how surreal it is. Do you think that the players would have got over it by now, 20 minutes in? Will they be fully focused?
So. I think the mental preparation, the focus has probably kicked in now, and players are kind of in their groove. They've got past the first point where they're winded by the first, physical exertion, which most players tend to be in the first moments of the game, and now they're just concentrating on their instructions and what they need to do.
Bit of a scrappy game going on in the middle of the park. Haaland with a flick on towards Brandt, but Schalke have it back now with Serdar in the middle of the park. Played it out to the left-hand side. He was looking for his left back there, but of course the pass was wayward and Dortmund get a throw in as a result.
Serdar is usually a very, very good passer of the ball, so it's unusual to see him give the ball away in such a sloppy fashion.
Rahman's been a little bit isolated, hasn't he, for Schalke so far, through the middle?
Yeah, they're struggling to get men up around him, which is understandable. They're trying to find a way to obviously prevent Dortmund from playing in those areas.
Dortmund have a free kick now, right on the edge of the penalty area. Hazard, the man fouled. It was Serdar, who we were just speaking about, who got back. Bit of a clumsy challenge, isn't it, from Serdar?
Yeah, difficult to do when you're tracing back towards your own goal. You've got to sometimes think about whether you're going to take the man out to give a free kick away, if that's the right thing to do. In that instance, possibly not, because it's an extremely good chance now.
Schalke line up their wall. There's a couple of Dortmund players standing over this, 3 actually. Guerrero, Brandt. Struck towards goals, deflected off of the wall. It will go out for a Dortmund corner. Poor effort, but I suppose the players are a little bit rusty.
Yeah, we have to bear that in mind with everything that's going on throughout the game, that they're struggling themselves to find ways to really affect the game in the final third. That little bit of sharpness seems to be missing.
Julian Brandt, I believe, who's going to take the corner for Dortmund. Haaland getting involved with Schubert. Todibo not happy with him. The referee's going to have a word as well. Nothing.
Haaland's got that in his game. He doesn't mind winding defenders up. He doesn't mind using himself to put himself in about in the penalty area. It's interesting for such a young player to have that effect on the opposition.
He's a real handful in every sense of the word. As Brandt prepares to take this corner for Dortmund in front of an empty stand. Ball comes into the penalty area. It's headed back in Brandt's direction. He takes a touch and he'll get a second opportunity to deliver it into the box. Almost met by the head of a Dortmund man. Haaland squeezes a shot from a tight angle, but it's wide of the near post, and Schubert not really troubled in the end.
No, there wasn't a lot in that, really. I mean, the opportunity from the second cross is always a dangerous one for defenders who have to keep their concentration. And that's what you see from Haaland, that willingness to shoot, even from acute angles. He doesn't mind pulling the trigger. And every shot's just him refining his sights, refining his accuracy. And eventually we'll see him hit the target.
I mean, the hit was a good one. The first touch was a good one. But of course, as you said, the angle was incredibly difficult. Don't forget as well, we'll be covering Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich tomorrow as well. If you're going to be spending your entire weekend like we are, essentially watching Bundesliga football, come and join us for that one too, where once again Lee will be bringing you expert analysis and I'll just be blabbing in between. Here's Matt Hummels in possession. Looks up, not much in the way of movement though from his Dortmund colleagues. Here's Julian Brandt, plays it inside, but Schalke managed to get a foot on it and they have possession back on this right hand side now with John Joe Kenny. Here's Todibo, side to Sane. Plays it out to this left hand side for Oxipka. Lovely 1-2 as Schalke look to fashion something a little bit further up the field, but the ball rolls harmlessly back to Roman Bürki in the Dortmund goal.
Again, they've got no presence in the final third there, so even though there was a nice quick attack and passing and movement, there was nobody up front to really have the ball played into to move the ball and move the point of attack.
Here comes Schalke with another opportunity. An opportunity to get the ball into the box. It's delivered left-footed. It's headed clear, but not far enough. And Schalke have a real chance here. And he's forced to save out of Bürki. There's a real scramble going on in the Dortmund penalty area. That was a real opportunity for Caliuri. Real opportunity for Schalke.
It was. It all comes just another scrappy moment, like we've been saying throughout the game. These instances seem to be occurring. A mistake in the Dortmund penalty area, and the ball falls at the feet of Caligiuri, who's actually a good finisher. One of the Schalke's most experienced and better players in the final third. So quite surprising not to see him pull the trigger a little better in that instance.
Akanji didn't exactly cover himself in glory there either, did he?
No, he didn't. That's safe to say. I think Akanji has got that in his game. He does make the odd mistake. He's very, very good in possession, which is why Dortmund rate him so highly. That, as we talked about, the central defenders have to be able to progress the ball for Dortmund. So in the defensive phase, he's still quite a young defender, so there are still a few mistakes and errors in his game.
Schalke coming forward once more and winning a throw-in almost in line with Borussia Dortmund's penalty area. Oxipka, the man getting forward constantly on this left-hand side. Schalke substitutes warming up next to that goal. Here come the away side once more, but they're forced back now, and it's with Sane inside the centre circle. Plays it to the right-hand side to Todibo.
Interesting to see that Dortmund aren't pressing that aggressively. They're happy to let the Schalke centre-halves have possession.
Do you think that it's because we're entering, I guess, the last third of this half, and perhaps they're seeing a bit of tiredness?
Yeah, potentially they're in a rest phase where they're maybe not trying to press that high up. Could also be that they don't believe that Schalke centre backs are that good at progressing the ball, so they're happy for them to have a little bit of space and time to try to make them forced to pass ball forward. And if you have a team like Dortmund who are so good with the centre backs, and Hummels especially at passing, teams will press higher because he's dangerous when moving the ball forwards. If your centre backs aren't great at progressing the ball, sometimes you can let them have the ball and they'll make mistakes when they try and play forward, and you can win the ball back.
Here's Matt Hummels again in possession, plays it out to Piszczek to his right. He steps inside the defender. Lovely flick on there from Brandt. Haaland's making his way into the box. The ball's delivered in. Haaland gets a touch and Haaland scores. And Borussia Dortmund lead. And that's the danger he poses in behind. It was an excellent cross there from Hazard. Haaland pulled away from the defender. And there he was to open the scoring.
Very, very effective. You saw in the first moment when the play was starting to build up, the run went high behind on the right-hand side in the half space, and that's where the ball was played into. You'll see it here. Watch the run that Julian Brandt makes. In this instance, the ball comes through. And that's the key. As soon as he picks the ball up there, he's able to flick the ball into Reina. Reina flicks the ball in the box, and it's a first-time finish. Haaland is so effective running behind in that manner. People seem to think that he scores his goals and scores easy goals and takes easy shots, but the positioning and the movement are so good for a striker who's this young. I don't think you can overstate just how effective he is as a striker.
It's the way he just... He doesn't put his foot through the ball and risk messing it up. You know, he just opens that boot up and almost guides it, doesn't he, into that far corner and leaving the goalkeeper with no chance. He's really... You
don't have to.
Really mature striker, isn't he?
100%. I mean, his finishing ability is staggering for a player who's so relatively still inexperienced, but he has all kinds of goals in his locker. He's dangerous in the air. He's got a very, very strong shot. He can score with his left foot, his right foot. But in that finish, he didn't have to put power in it. The power was in the cross. All he had to do was open his foot. And that's something that's important for young players who are developing to know the ability to just redirect the ball, if you like, use the power on the pass, redirect it past the goalkeeper. And I think now we're going to see Schalke have to come out a little bit, and there's going to be even more spaces opened up for Dortmund to play in those half spaces. So watch Julian Brandt become even more effective going forward.
It's a top quality delivery as well, and I'm not sure what's gone on with Reina, but he's obviously been come out of the team last minute because Hazard is the Dortmund number 23, but something's gone on there because he was on the team sheet.
He was, and I think it's confused both of us. You've been saying Hazard quite rightly, and I've been saying Reina. But you did see it there. Hazard has that ability to move into those spaces, and he does have a good delivery into goal.
The quality of the pass was everything, wasn't it? Because we're talking about Haaland and we're singing his praises about his ability to open his foot and guide it into the far corner. But if the cross isn't right, you can't do that. So we've got to give incredible praise to Hazard there for his part in that as well.
100%. I think that this is where Dortmund are going to be very effective. Now they're starting to press. Now, with a goal to the good, obviously they know that if they score again this far in the first half, then they've got a good chance of holding on. So we might see them press more aggressively now. So you can see the different ways that the game situation affects how teams press and play in different situations. Before we saw Dortmund quite happy to allow Schalke to have the ball, and now they're right up pressing aggressively and trying to take advantage of the fact they've got that goal.
31 minutes played here. It's Dortmund 1, Schalke 0. And of course, if Dortmund are to pick up all 3 points here, I know we're speaking probably quite prematurely given we've only played half an hour here, they would close the gap on Bayern Munich to just a single point ahead of their game tomorrow at Union Berlin.
I think any opportunity teams now have to close the gap in Bayern is very, very important. Since Hansi Flick came into the Bayern Munich job, he's completely turned the team around. And now, before the break, before everything stopped for the COVID-19 outbreak, I think that Bayern were arguably the best team in Europe. So it'll be interesting to see tomorrow whether they continue with that.
Just seeing that flick once again from Julian Brandt
So
to
good.
Hazard. Brilliant, wasn't it? Makes the goal, doesn't it?
He's so dangerous. Those are the positions that he takes up. That's why he's so dangerous. That yes, the pass is good to find him, but you have to have a player who's in that pocket of space to receive the ball. And as soon as he receives that ball in that half space, the Schalke defender has a choice to make. Does he press out towards Brandt? If he does so, he leaves space behind him. So that's what Dortmund are trying to do. They're trying to access those spaces to move the Schalke defenders and create. In that instance, it was creating space for Hazard, and then Haaland had to finish.
Guerrero there dispossessed on that left-hand side for Dortmund. Schalke coming forward, long diagonal ball in search of Rahman up top, who I don't even think has touched the ball yet, has he?
No, very, very difficult. Rahman's a striker who prefers, again, the ball in behind so he can use his pace to run onto the ball. I think that in the second half we might see Bergstaller come on. He's more of a presence for holding the ball up, which Schalke may need if they're able to move the midfield up towards him. But at the moment, something's not working in that offensive third. But again, that's been the case for most of the season. Defensively, Schalke have been very good, but in the attacking phase, they've struggled. And you can see where their lack of creativity really hinders and holds them back.
Dortmund win the ball here inside the Schalke half, and they look to build something once again. And there was an opportunity there to play Guerrero, I think it was, on that left-hand side in, who'd come across. My apologies, it was Hazard who'd gone across to that side. Real opportunity, though, to get in behind, and once they've won the ball back so high.
Yeah, we're seeing Dortmund more and more be able to play through into those dangerous areas. I think that this could be the pattern of play that we see going forward now, with Dortmund trying to break through centrally with space move on the wings for Guerrero on the left and for Hakimi on the right. They'll try and exploit that if they can, but the first pass tends to be centrally just to pull Schalke in towards the ball, and then they can exploit spaces.
There's also been a goal in the game between Leipzig and Freiburg. Freiburg have taken the lead at Leipzig through Gulde after 34 minutes. Schalke win possession back just inside their own half. Todibo there going to get a nosebleed if he gets any further forward. As Dortmund win it back and come forward with Guerrero now. Here's Hakimi. Hazard puts his foot on it before laying it off back to Piszczek. Side to Dahoud. Got time to twist and turn and look up. But it's backwards in the end. And the ball finds itself all the way back with Roman Bürki in the Dortmund goal.
Now you can see Schalke pressing out, trying to disrupt the progression of the ball from Dortmund. But this is dangerous because that means that there are spaces. So Dortmund will move the ball left and right and try and find a way to play through.
And can Hakimi keep it in? He has. He's done brilliantly. He's passed to Debo as well. But is there anyone in the box? He pulls it back brilliantly. And a real opportunity once again for Dortmund. Guerrero with his head in his hands. Because he knows that was an opportunity. That's brilliant work from Hakimi.
It was absolutely superb work. And that's where we see Hakimi really at his strongest. When he's got that ability to run at the defence. He's so quick, so direct, so powerful when he runs with the ball. He's not easily moved off it. And he's usually got a good delivery, as we saw there. A lot of people, when you've made that kind of run, you're already exerted yourself physically to that extent. It becomes difficult to be accurate with your ball in the area when you've run that hard and ran that fast. So for him to be able to identify that the pullback was on and get the pass in the middle was very, very impressive.
And I was just talking about Todibo being too far up the field, and there you go. He got caught out there, didn't he?
Todibo's actually usually quite quick, so that's just a show of exactly how fast Hakimi is, because Todibo is one of the quicker defenders in the Schalke team, and he just couldn't keep up. He couldn't live with Hakimi. It's difficult for centre halves though when they play in a back three, because they have to be comfortable when they're defending isolated and they're pulled out wide like that against wing backs or quick wingers. You do see it, and they have to be able to come out and keep up with them and know how to block off their runs and passing angles. And I think there we just saw the sheer pace and power of Hakimi blow past him.
Just looking at some of your comments coming through live on the Hot Mic app, John says that we've given no credit to Favre for Brandt's diversity in exploiting vertical space. Lee, would you say that it's improved dramatically under Lucien Favre?
I think that Brandt has developed this season, but I think that the initial development we saw in Brandt's game came at Bayer Leverkusen before he moved to Dortmund, when we started to see him used in that 8 space as a central midfielder. He is, believe it or not, playing as a central midfielder. You wouldn't think it, given the movements and the positions that he's taken up. But yes, he has developed this season, but not solely. He's already started moving that way. And that's why Dortmund signed him, I think. It was that ability to play inside and to occupy those half spaces, which are so important for this Dortmund team. I think that's why they brought him into the club, and that's what we've seen. But believe me, Julian Brandt is one of my very favourite players in world football. I think that I never make any secret of the fact I love watching him play. And it's because of his ability to take up positions in the half spaces and play in the half turn with those little soft touches. He's very reminiscent in possession of Andres Iniesta of Barcelona fame, Barcelona and Spain fame, who I believe turned 36 this week. He plays in the same kind of spaces, and he has that same ability just to move the ball through slight touches. It's almost at Barcelona, they call it the half touch, where you're not controlling the ball and making a full touch with a passing movement. You're just allowing the ball to roll off of you into space for a teammate. And that's where Julian Brandt's so impressive and so important. In this game, he has been key for Dortmund.
Todibo, they're just limping around. He was, of course, involved in that chase with Hakimi. He came off with a little bit of a knock there, and there was another exchange there with Dahoud, and it's not known whether he'll be able to continue for the rest of the game. He's not moving too well, but there's no sign of him being replaced at this moment in time. Now, of course, we have to take into account that the Bundesliga are allowing 5 substitutes now. 3 of those can be made during the game, and the rest can be made during half-time if the clubs wish to. Ball in behind from Caliguri, taken down nicely there by Harit, but I think the flag's gone up. It has. Dortmund will have a free kick. 38 minutes played. It's Dortmund 1, Schalke 0. And as we just see the replay, did look slightly offside there, Harit.
I think he was just offside. It's difficult. We always say in that position that players should be looking along the line and remaining onside. But he knows that he's got to do something to affect the game for Schalke now in the final third, and that was the opportunity for him to do so. So a little bit more composure, a little bit of a quicker pass perhaps to come out on the diagonal, and Schalke might have had an opportunity to threaten the goal.
Dahoud wins the ball back for Dortmund there, and it's Haaland takes a touch as Dortmund look to create something more just before the half-time break, around about 5-6 minutes remaining. Schalke in possession as they look to work their way out of the defence. They'll carry the ball forward here with Serdar. He's got players getting forward to his left-hand side. He's being chased by Hazard. Appeals for a free kick. The referee points to the ball and Dortmund play on. Switch of play there. Julian Brandt now will pick it up. Hakimi's made the run forward on this right-hand side. He's in plenty of space. Will he have a shot? He looks to beat the defender and his shot is blocked by the Schalke man. Can't help but feel he should have done a little bit better there, Hakimi, having got in that position.
I think so. I think that the opportunity was there. It's difficult when you get in that position on the edge of the penalty area. Obviously, Haaland is in the centre and looking for a pass, but there was no through pass for him. The defence was blocking that off. Usually, you would see Hakimi move the ball slightly sharper to the right hand side before shooting with that right foot. He is extremely right footed. He likes that shot hard across the goal. But you've got to admire the way that he moved forward in the first instance with right wing back. He found that pass diagonally to Brand and then got back in the area to collect it.
Brand will deliver right-footed in towards that near post. The ball comes out to the edge of the box and it's fired goalwards there by Dahoud. Came off a Schalke head. Dortmund are going to have another corner. This time it was off Sane. Just see it once again. Ball comes to the edge of the box. Dahoud, it looked a clean strike. Certainly looked like it was on target. Probably right down the keeper's throat, but nevertheless.
Technically, Dahoud is excellent technically. He's a very good passer of the ball. He just hasn't quite made the breakthrough at Dortmund since his move from Mönchengladbach.
All into the penalty area, headed clear. Not far enough, though, by the Schalke defenders. Here's Hakimi. Lets it run across his body and will try and switch the play for Dortmund. The ball's gone back over the top in search of Brandt, but it's overrun and it's gone out for a Schalke goal kick.
Like a second goal now is very, very important. If you see Dortmund get the second goal, we'll see the game change again as Schalke have to push right out to try and get back into the game. We're already seeing that a little bit with the pressing becoming aggressive again from Schalke. They're trying to get the ball back in high areas and trying to stop Dortmund from progressing the ball, and that's because they're a goal behind and the game state's changed. The game state is very, very important within football. So the time and the clock, the scoreline, all affects exactly how the players in the pitch react to certain situations.
Here's Dahoud now. Plays the ball to the left-hand side to, I think it's Guerrero, plays it inside, back to Dahoud, who turns, looks up before laying it off to Matt Hummels. Back with Dahoud, ball in between the lines to Brandt. He's brought down just outside the centre circle. Foul committed there by McKennie.
McKennie seems to be playing as a holding midfielder here for Schalke, which is not something that, I mean, he's got it in his skill set. He can play there, but he's much more effective when he's allowed to break forward into the opposition half more.
Here comes Schalke now with Kenny on this right-hand side. Opportunity to cut the ball back. There's a foul there on the edge of the box. Surely the referees waved it away again, and I thought Schalke had a real shout for a free kick the last time when Serdar got forward and Piszczek got a foot in. So they'll feel a little bit aggrieved that they haven't got that one either. Of course, we haven't seen the replay yet, but certainly looked like one, didn't it?
I think it's that kind of situation that we see free kicks given away so often when players are trying to recover space and they make that contact from behind, especially in that area. It's very, very difficult to do. But perhaps looking at that replay, the Schalke player was looking for it a little bit. It's hard to tell.
Certainly feels hard done by, or he's certainly acting as though he feels that way. Here is Rahman, who hasn't had many touches of the ball this afternoon. He's been very, very isolated up there for Schalke. Couple of minutes to go until the break. It's not known how much stoppage time will be added on, but Dortmund seem to be in control of this one at the moment. Of course, it's only a 1-goal deficit. And as we know from years and years of watching football, a 1-goal deficit doesn't really count for much, does it?
No, of course not. I mean, anything could happen. Schalke could have a deflected shot. They could get a free kick like that in the edge of the area, and suddenly you've got a chance to equalise. That's why Dortmund will be keen to stretch this lead. And I think going into the second half, we'll see them come out on the front foot and try to really get at Schalke a little bit more.
Absolutely. Lovely touch there from, I think it was Brandt or Hazard. Hazard, yes. My apologies. Here's Schubert in the Schalke goal. Under pressure from Haaland. The pass was a poor one. That's what pressing high up the pitch can do. Here come Dortmund into the penalty area once more, and they score another goal for Borussia Dortmund. This time it's Guerrero. Brilliant
And
strike.
again, you see that the wing backs are so important for Dortmund. That was Guerrero attacking down the half space into the penalty area, receiving the ball, and then that little finish across the goal. But you're absolutely right. That's what pressing gives you. That whole goal was created by Haaland pressing the goalkeeper.
He's put him under incredible pressure. The pass is a terrible one. There's not a Schalke player anywhere near. Once again, Brandt with a smart pass in behind. Guerrero shapes up on his left foot and drives it into that far corner.
The finish is so effective, and that's why in football you hear coaches say all the time, aim across the goalkeeper, aim across the goalkeeper. You're looking for that far post, but you're also looking for the fact that if it's touched by the goalkeeper, if it comes back out, you've got a chance for the striker running in. But this time Guerrero was unerring in his finish, and those movements from the wing backs are so effective because they don't limit themselves to attacking down the wide areas. They come inside, they attack in the half spaces, and when they get the ball, they're very good finishers in the penalty area.
Absolutely. And that, I believe, is Guerrero's 6th goal of the season for Borussia Dortmund. And you've spoken about the importance of the fullbacks for them. And that's 6 goals for Guerrero. If you look at Hakimi, who's playing on the other side, he's got 7 goals and 8 assists. That is incredible. 10 assists, my apologies. 7 goals and 10 assists. I mean, that's just brilliant for a fullback especially.
Yeah, this is the second year of a 2-year loan for Hakimi from Real Madrid at Borussia Dortmund. He goes back at the end of this season. So it'll be interesting to see whether Madrid find a way to include him in their first team going forward. A player with that quality, you'd like to think that Madrid would like to have in the first team, but sometimes Hakimi's defensive game can let him down a little bit, but you've already seen what he gives when you're attacking with the ball. If you're a team who has a lot of the ball and tends to attack the opposition, then he could be key.
Half time here at the Signal Iduna Park. It's Dortmund 2, Schalke 0 in the Riviera derby. Schalke started okay, but they've been put under pressure. They've made a couple of silly mistakes, and as a result, they find themselves 2 goals down. It's a long way back for Schalke now. Lucien Favre will, of course, be the happier of the 2 managers, but it's only 2 goals. I'm sure that Dortmund will be the overwhelming favourites now, but it's football and you never know. So be sure to come back and join us for the second half. We're just going to take a short break, just a couple of moments, and we'll be back to look back at that first half and look ahead to tomorrow's game, which we'll be covering live via the Hot Mic app, and that's Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. We've taken a short break and we're back to dissect that first half. Let's talk about the opening goal. Erling Braut Haaland with the goal. Brilliant piece of movement from Borussia Dortmund. Julian Brandt's flick in particular was incredible. Hazard with the expert delivery. It was deserved though, wasn't it, Lee, in your opinion? Dortmund deserved to take the lead?
I think so. It was interesting in the opening stages of the half when we saw Schalke press a little bit more aggressively than we perhaps thought they would. It looked at that point like it might be a bit more of an even game as Dortmund struggled to really control the ball and control the progression of the ball. But as the half's gone on, I don't think there's any doubt that Dortmund have been more effective. They've taken up better positions within the final third. They've got on the ball, and that movement from Julian Brandt to occupy that half space is what opened everything up, and that's why when we talk about these things, when we do the analysis and total football analysis, and we listen to us in podcasts, we talk about the importance of the half space because of how integral it is to progress the ball in the final third. If you can occupy that half space and pick up possession of the ball, then you're in a position where you drag the opposition defenders out of position and you create spaces that you can exploit. And that's exactly what we saw. Julian Brandt's a master at it. His flick let Torgan Hazard in, but don't take away from the finish and for the quality of the delivery either from Torgan Hazard. I think they both were top class.
Absolutely. While we're on the subject of Haaland, they got to be, if you look in world football, I don't think you'll find a better bargain than that, in recent years. 19 years old. £18 million. And when you consider, how much you have to pay these days to get a top quality striker, that's been an absolute steal for Borussia Dortmund, hasn't it?
Definitely, and this is all down. We talked before the game about the way that he's been advised and the way that he's progressed his career. So when he decided he agreed to join Red Bull Salzburg, there was a provision put in there with a release clause, which is why Dortmund got him at such a low price. So Dortmund were able just to trigger that release clause, and they apparently, I've now not seen it confirmed anywhere, but there is a strong suspicion that there is a release clause within his Dortmund contract as well, but one that doesn't come live until the end of the 2020-21 season. So he's obviously expecting to be in Germany for 1.5 seasons, maybe even another season after that, but then he'll be looking for the next move, and it will be to a super club. But that's what we've seen from Borussia Dortmund over the years. They have this ability to identify young players and then take them in and give them playing minutes. Look at Osama Dembele, who they signed from Rennes. I think it was €15 million, the deal that they signed Dembele from Rennes in the French Liga. And he played there for a season and then was sold for over 100 million to Barcelona. Yes, he struggled at Barcelona, but his time at Dortmund, he was absolutely fantastic. But within a matter of weeks of that deal being signed to allow Dembele to move to Barcelona, they'd moved to sign Jadon Sancho for 8 million. So that conveyor belt of talent just seems to keep pulling through, and that's something that Dortmund really, really excel at.
Absolutely. And I know I keep coming back to that opening goal, but I'm only coming back to it because the replay is currently playing on our screens. Yeah. And it's about the position that Haaland takes up, isn't it? In between the centre halves. I mean, it's so difficult for defenders to deal with that. Who picks him up? Who goes with him? Who tries to cut out the ball at the near post? Do you commit fully in trying to cut out that ball at the near post and in turn lose track of him? It's really, really difficult when the movement is so good.
It's really important for young strikers to understand this, that forward play isn't about physically overpowering your opponent or getting in front of your opponent. It comes before that, the important moments. So you'll see Haaland, if you watch him in the second half, if you get a chance to see him off the ball, he'll be right in the shoulder of a defender, and as soon as the defender's attention is attracted elsewhere, you'll see Haaland just take 1 or 2 steps away, and suddenly he's in between defenders already. Now, when the ball's played through from that position behind the defensive line, Haaland already has separation from the defender. The defender can't knock him off his stride easily with physical contact. So Haaland could then use his pace to get in behind. And you saw it in that example. He found himself in that pocket of space between the defenders, as you say. Does the defender try to cut off the cross? Do they try to perhaps make contact to push Haaland off his stride a little bit? And those are the points, those are the technical and tactical points that set strikers apart. Some strikers rely on their physical power or their pace, but they don't quite understand the small pieces of movement which are so important. Haaland has both, and that's why he's so special.
Absolutely. And just looking at the replay of the second goal from Guerreiro, even though, of course, Brandt plays Guerreiro in, who doesn't need to use anybody else in the end. You just watch Haaland's movement there again, and once again he pulls off of the 3 defenders in that instance, and he finds himself in space. Now again, I know Guerrero doesn't use him and doesn't need to use him, but that's just another indication of how good this boy's movement is.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, this is something that we saw in the first half of the season, especially in Austria at Salzburg. And people were a little bit disparaging at that point, that they didn't quite buy in completely to how good Haaland was, because the assertion was that he's only doing it in the Austrian Bundesliga where defences aren't as good. But every step and every level he's moved to in his career, he's shown that he can do it and that he can dominate games through this movement. When you see the Hakimi, when he moves in as well, when he has his chance in the right half space, when he tries to shift the ball to the right but it's blocked and goes out for a corner, there again, Haaland's in the middle. Every time he's in position, he's always where he needs to be as a striker. And that's why he gets so many goals, because he puts himself in the areas where he knows that if he doesn't get the first chance, there might be a chance of the ball being knocked back into him and he could finish.
Absolutely. Brilliant stuff. In terms of the overall balance of the game, I mean, Dortmund, 2 goals to the good. They have been the better side. Schalke have really, really struggled to get their front men into the game, haven't they?
Yeah, they've struggled to find any kind of movement in the final third. Harit is a real threat. I mean, he's an extremely gifted playmaker, but he's playing isolated at the moment on the left-hand side. We saw once he was able to pick up the ball and drive inside, and he won a free kick for Symeou with some clever footwork as he pulled the ball back and then shifted his body weight and tried to go a different way. That's who Schalke need to get on the ball a little bit more. I think that Roman has really struggled. I don't know what's conditioning. I don't know what's happening, but he hasn't even really touched the ball properly. And for a striker to be effective against three centre backs, I mean, he's isolated like that, there needs to be more movement and there needs to be more vertical movement in terms of passing from Schalke, but they're struggling even to progress the ball properly.
Let's have a look at some of the live comments coming through from those of you joining us on the broadcast. David says, Schalke look a lot like David Wagner's Huddersfield at times. Very little threat. Now, the question I want to put to you, Lee, is this David Wagner's, I don't want to say fault, but is this down to David Wagner, or is this something that Schalke have struggled with long before David Wagner came along?
Schalke have struggled for years now. They're such a big club. Schalke are. They in terms of fan base, in terms of the infrastructure and everything that surrounds the club, they should be in a position to rival Borussia Dortmund without a shadow of a doubt. But they've struggled in terms of youth development and integration of young players, despite having an excellent academy. They've struggled with squad building, with recruitment. They haven't been able to find the players. We've already touched upon how good Dortmund are identifying young players and getting them into the system and playing first team minutes to develop. Schalke haven't been able to do the same, and there's no reason why they wouldn't be able to. It just hasn't happened for them in recent seasons. Yes, I completely agree that there are times in this game it's looked very much like watching Huddersfield play, which is almost eerie. But at the start of the season, if you go back and you look back on Schalke games from the first half of the season, in the first quarter of that, I would say the first half of the season, I know that's confusing, you'll see a huge difference. You'll see a hyper-aggressive pressing team with the ball moving much more quickly and vertically. And at that point, some Schalke players commented on the fact that this was a much more enjoyable way to play. Over the last few games before the lockdown, we saw a switch, and we saw Schalke really struggle to keep that intensity up and to keep up any progression in the final third where they could find a goal. But being able to find that pass in the final third is one thing, but what we've seen Dortmund do, and why this is so important, why I keep talking about it, the pass at the final third is all very well, but you have to have a player who can receive it there. That's why Julian Brandt is so integral, because he's always in pockets of space to receive the progressive passes in the final third. And that position that Brandt receives the ball in, suddenly it gives Dortmund an attacking platform for which to play and threaten the goal. Schalke don't have that, and that's more a factor of squad building and how the players and the profiles that they have within that squad, I think, they're directly attributed to David Wagner.
Brilliant stuff. Let's briefly look ahead to tomorrow's game, which of course we'll be covering live on here. So if you haven't signed up to the Hot Mic app and you are using the YouTube channel at the moment, head over to Hot Mic, download the app, use the promo code TFA 2020, sign up and give Total Football Analysis a follow. We'll be bringing you plenty more games over the coming weeks and hopefully months and hopefully years. So please do give us a follow there. If you're watching us at the moment on Hot Mic, but you haven't given us a follow yet, then why not give that a follow too? It's just a click of one button. Tomorrow, Union Berlin, Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich will no doubt be the overwhelming favourites, but how do you expect that one to go? Just briefly, Lee, how do you see it going? Are you expecting Bayern to walk all over them?
Perhaps not walk all over them. I think we've got to be mindful of the conditioning issues that we've already discussed, and exactly what it looks like, we're not going to know for sure. I think that since Bayern turned to Hansi Flick to come in as their head coach, we've seen a completely different profile for Bayern. And if you think Dortmund are good at progressing the ball, just wait until we watch Bayern Munich play. They've been absolutely exceptional. They've made some intriguing tactical moves this season. David Alaba, the left back, has now been played as a centre back, and he's one of the most progressive passers in European football. His ability on the ball and his ability to find those passing lanes into the final third where the Bayern players will move in and out of space is second to none. Couple that with Thiago in midfield, the Spanish international, who was, of course, the most important signing for Pep Guardiola when he first moved to Bayern Munich. He's still there. He's another player who can dictate the game just with his ability to pull defenders towards him and then move the ball away. I think that Union are an interesting team. They more than deserve their place in the Bundesliga in terms of fan culture and experience and everything that surrounds football. I don't think you'll get a better experience in Union Berlin, but they will struggle, I think, to keep at bay this Bayern side who are looking to sew up the Bundesliga.
Looks like Schalke have made a couple of changes at the break. It looks like Bergstaller is coming on, as well as Matondo. We're not quite sure who they're replacing just yet. We'll let you know as soon as we do. But it looks like they've made a couple of changes at the break.
Yeah, it looks very positive. I think we touched upon the fact that we might see Bergstaller in the second half. He's got more of a presence to hold the ball up and allow the Schalke midfield to move up into the final third and to play from there. Rabbi Matondo, obviously a Welsh winger, very, very highly rated now in Germany. He's done well. His profile was much lower than Jadon Sancho's when he made the move to the Bundesliga, but like John Joe Kenny, he's really settled in and kind of made a name for himself in the Schalke team.
Those two have come on. We're just awaiting confirmation of who they've replaced. Can't see Roman out there. I think he's definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's Schalke number 9. He didn't get much of a look in the first half. No fault of his own, mind you. Just down to the way they were playing and the fact that they couldn't create anything in that final third and give him the service that he needs. We're back underway here at Signal Iduna Park. It's Dortmund 2, Schalke 0. Bergstaller comes on for Todibo, of course, the defender who picked up a couple of knocks towards the end of that first half, and Matondo replaces Roman as suspected. So that is the two changes that Schalke have made. Dortmund yet to make one.
So that'll mean a back four now for Schalke. Move away from the back three. We'll now see a back four. Expect Matondo to play mainly from the right-hand side, but he will make a lot more movements up to support the front man. So positive changes for Schalke. Obviously, they're not giving up at this with 2-0 down at half-time.
Here's Haaland fighting for possession. Hazard picks it up, but he's dispossessed. And Schalke look to come forward once more with Caliuri. Looks to beat his man. Is Matondo. Plays it inside. Effort at goal from Schalke, but Serdar's effort was never really going to trouble Roman Bürki there in the Dortmund goal. But it's more positive. It's a positive start to the second period for the visitors.
It is already. We've seen them looking to occupy more space in the final third, which is key. That's where you get those spaces to get those shots away. But the shot was never really a threat, I don't think. But certainly an interesting start to the second half.
Here's Kenny, the Schalke right back. Here come the visitors once more down this left-hand side. Ball's played inside there. Switched across the field to the number 20, Kenny, who's gotten forward on this right-hand side. Dortmund camped behind the ball at the moment. They're happy to let Schalke have possession in this sort of area. Sane plays it back out to the right-hand side. It's Kenny, takes a touch. He's got Brandt for company, plays it inside. The ball goes into
You
the
can see how
midfield.
static Schalke are in the final third there. Yes, the ball's being moved more progressively, but there's not a lot of movement to create separation and take spaces.
Here's Kenny on this right-hand side. Looks to play Matondo in behind, but he's held up there. Still got possession, though. Lovely 1-2 with Kenny. But they've been forced back by the Dortmund defence here. Lovely bit of skill there. Just a few yards from the Dortmund penalty area. But Dortmund have won it back, and this is where they're so dangerous on the counter-attack. Haaland's touch was a loose one. Sane got a foot in, but Dortmund will play advantage here. And Dortmund with an opportunity to make it 3. And there's no mistake there from Hazard. It's Dortmund 3, Schalke 0. And just when we were talking about a positive start to the second period for the visitors, they've been pegged back and they've been dealt a real sucker punch by this Borussia Dortmund side. Thorgan Hazard with the finish as we see it again. Ball breaks. I think it came off Matt Hummels. Brilliant defending there. Haaland's touch was loose and it looked like he'd lost possession. He wanted the free kick. The referee waved play on. Hazard got forward. Once again, Brandt with another delightful pass. This time to Hazard, who made no mistake with the finish. Keeper maybe needs to do a little bit better there watching the replay.
I think so, but this really just sums up what we've been talking about before. When we talked about the dangers of Schalke when they press forward, when they get more aggressive and they try to get back into the game, this is where they leave spaces behind, and that's where Dortmund are so dangerous. Dortmund are a team that play in transition. They're not possession focused. You won't see a lot of keeping the ball for possession's sake. They always look to move forward. They always look to play in the front foot, and if they can find space in the final third around your defence, you're in trouble. And in that instance, when Julian Brand picked the ball up, initially I think he looked for a free kick himself, but he saw that wasn't good. It can be spotted the run on the far side, and absolutely the goalkeeper should have done better, but all that Torgan Hazard could do really was hit the target, which is what he did. But this is tactically exactly what we talked about. Schalke have now came out in the game state 2-0 down and tried to get back into the game. Started the second half well, but they've left themselves exposed, and Dortmund were absolutely ruthless.
Haaland picked up a knock in the build-up to that one. Of course, he's still on the pitch and he's running around and he looks like he's trying to shake it off. But it was a little bit of a naughty challenge there from Sane because he certainly left a foot in, and you can understand why Haaland, not knowing what was then going to unfold, wanted a free kick at the time.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing with defenders. You have to make that choice in those transition moments. If you can stop the ball, it's known as professional fouling. Manchester City are one of the masters at it under Guardiola. You'll see them stop the attack from the opposition early, and that's what Sarri tried to do there. But Haaland is that big and that strong and that powerful that he couldn't even stop him trying that.
Here's Matondo coming down this right-hand side for Schalke. He's done very well, cuts it right across the penalty area.
And that's what Matondo gives you. He gives you that ability to stretch on the outside. We talked in the first half.
Lovely bit of play there, lovely bit of footwork there.
We talked in the first half about the different profiles for wide players. So Harry on the left-hand side is a player who'll look to come inside in possession. Matondo on the right is the opposite, and he'll look to go outside and around. And that's what we'll see more and more from him going forward. So it's just that different balance that the two players give you in the same position, but the roles so different and the movements are different from them.
Schalke in possession with Serdar. Plays it to that left-hand side, and Schalke definitely now playing a back four. You can see the fullbacks have pushed on just a little bit. Of course, Schalke in desperate need of a goal here. And they started the half positively, didn't they? And we gave them praise, but it was a little bit premature because, of course, Dortmund showing the kind of threat that they have on that counter-attack. And if you're not alert, if you're not switched on, that's what happens.
Oh, they'll absolutely punish you. I mean, the players that they have in the final third and that movement, they're so good in those quick moments. They know how to run and where to run to occupy and to stretch space, and that's what they did so well. Whether I think Schalke will now struggle to go back for Schalke now at 3-1, they still have to press up and they still have to chase the game. So we'll see those spaces become even more exacerbated as the game goes on. Expect Dortmund to keep playing at this tempo, keep playing at this transition speed, and that's when they're dangerous.
Schalke looking to engineer an opportunity, but the referee's pulled play back for something. Not entirely sure what he's pulled it back for. Appears there was a foul. Just having another look there.
Yeah, hand was up for pulling him back there.
Yep. It was Harit who was the man impeded there. Schalke have a free kick.
They need to find ways to get the ball to Harry and Matondo more and more, I think, in the final third. That's the only way they're going to get back in.
Ball comes into the box, is headed clear. Only as far as a Schalke man whose shot is blocked by the man mountain that is Matt Hummels at the back for Borussia Dortmund. Here come the home side looking for an opportunity to get in behind once more. Clash between players from either side in the centre circle. It looks like he's given this Schalke's way.
Like, that's potentially the first time we've seen Thomas Delaney in this match. It's to lay out a player in the centre circle.
It's quite a resemblance as well to Matt Hummels, isn't there? Doesn't make our job very easy.
When they're playing right in front of each other as well, Delaney tends to sit in that hole just in front of Hummels. So, yeah, it's quite funny.
Here comes Schalke once more. Delaney shown the first yellow card of the game. Here is Hummels. This is definitely Hummels, not Delaney. That's a poor pass. He's giving it away. Schalke with a real opportunity here. Matondo. Kenny coming up on that right-hand side. If Schalke use him, they do. But he's dispossessed. And Sane comes to clean up the mess in front of him.
Rabbi Matondo's already shown a willingness to hold the ball up and bring others into play. I think that he could really be a difference maker going forward if Schalke could continue to feed him the ball.
Here come Dortmund down this left-hand side. Lovely bit of play there from Guerrero. Good footwork. He was fouled in the end. Right by this touchline on this near side. Dortmund have a free kick. And I just want to say a big thank you to every single one of you who has tuned in to this live broadcast as well. The numbers are incredible. The feedback's been great so far. And we look forward to doing more with you guys. So thank you so much.
That's Hakimi showing the negative side of his game there. He switched off in the long crossfield pass and let the ball run off him out of play. He has that in him, that ability to switch off and to be a little bit complacent in possession. And then, of course, he's that powerful. When he has the ball at his feet, he's running with the ball, he makes up for it all.
Absolutely. He's a modern-day fullback, isn't he?
Yes, that's very true, yeah.
Here come Dortmund once more, but it's a loose touch and Schalke can break forward. Ball in the direction of Matondo, but it wasn't anywhere near accurate enough. And Akanji comes out of the Dortmund defence. Here's Haaland in behind. The angle's tight. He turns, puts it across the goal, but it's blocked. And Schalke work the ball out of their own penalty area, out of the danger zone, and look to fashion something of their own with Caligiuri. Appeals for a foul once more, but once more nothing given. Dortmund back in possession. Dortmund looking comfortable in this fixture. 55 minutes gone. It's Dortmund 3, Schalke 0 at the moment. Don't forget, if you're watching us via the Total Football Analysis YouTube channel, head over to the Hot Mic app instead. Download it, put in the code TFA2020, and you can sync the commentary with your television pictures. Here comes Schalke with an opportunity to find a way, maybe, back into this game. Great footwork on the edge of the box. The shot was deflected there from Bergstaller. His first real, contribution to this game. Easy save in the end, though.
Yeah, easy save for the goalkeeper. But we've already seen Bergstaller and Matondo be far more effective for Schalke than they were in the first half moving forward. So certainly a positive change from David Wagner. He's shown that he is willing to try to improve them in an attacking sense.
Do you wonder why he didn't start that way? Do you think that he thought Roman's pace would be more effective, seeing as they probably figured they'd be playing on the break?
I think so. I think that for the main fact, that's exactly the route they were going down. They were looking to try to draw Dortmund out and then hit them on the break. But in the end, they couldn't get possession for long enough to actually find those progressive passes that might have fed Roman in. Roman wasn't able to find spaces the way that Haaland has been, the way that Brandt was for Dortmund. And that was the key. So now they've changed their approach slightly and they're getting more joy. Still not breaking through, but they are starting to find more passes and more spaces in and around the penalty area.
Here come Dortmund down this left-hand side with Guerrero inside to Delaney. Kanji plays it across the defence to Piszczek. Kimi receives it on this right-hand side inside for Brandt, who's made another bit of excellent movement. But Schalke have picked up the loose ball and Schalke have the ball around about the halfway line now. Lovely bit of skill there. Appeals for a foul. Looks like he's got it. Brandt committing the foul there on the Schalke number 25, Harit. The visitors have a free kick and an opportunity to get the ball into the penalty area, which Oksipka will take, left-footed. He's got a decent delivery on him from what we've seen so far. Puts it into the penalty area. It's headed clear. Ball comes back, but now Dortmund can look to build a counter-attack. Schalke pressing very, very high up the pitch here, putting the Dortmund players under pressure. But once Dortmund beat that press, that's where the problems come for Schalke, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's that pass as soon as the first line is played. And that's why being able to play between the lines like that, being able to receive the ball between the lines, just as we've seen here from Brandt, I think, picking up the ball there. He was between the lines for Schalke and he was able to pick the ball up and then play. The pass has to be played, but there has to be a player there to receive the ball, and that's what Dortmund do so well. You'll see it again here when the ball gets moved through. They'll move across the pitch, but they're always looking for that vertical passing line. And now look at Brandt just drifting in behind. He's always there. He's always in that kind of space.
Dispossessed there. As Schalke look to come forward, Matondo tried to get a touch on it, but it's still with Schalke here with Serdar. His pass only as far as Akanji though, and Dortmund look to come forward themselves. Lovely turn there from Bergstaller. Apologies, it was Caliguri. Ball back to Sane inside the centre circle for Dortmund. Plays it out to Kenny on this right hand side. Ball into the feet of the forward. Here's Brandt. First time ball in behind for Haaland to chase, but a little bit overhit. Schubert will get there first. Approaching the hour mark. Any signs of Schalke potentially getting back in this, or do you think it's a step too far?
At the moment, I think that the game pattern is just exactly what we've seen since the start of half time. They are getting more joy, they are having more possession, they are trying to move forward a little bit faster, but they aren't doing anything that makes Dortmund extremely uncomfortable. At the moment, Dortmund are able to control the phases of the play, they're trying to control the ball. You'll see the centre halves are comfortable in possession and they're looking dangerous whenever they move towards the final third. All I can see at the moment is more goals for Dortmund, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see Dortmund make some changes around this point because players will be tired. And there are the Dortmund players warming up the substitutes.
Yeah, surely we're going to see some changes. As you said, and as we spoke about prior to the kickoff, conditioning will be an issue, won't it? Given that these players haven't played a competitive fixture since early March. It's a long, long time. So we're going to have to see how this unfolds. And of course, the coaches will have to be mindful of that. They don't want injuries at this crucial part of the season. So it is something that, well, it's another task, isn't it, for the managers to now manage the fitness far more meticulously than they normally would.
Yeah, it's all done via sports science now. So there will be people advising the managers on the bench right now as to the physical loads that these players have in them at the moment in terms of how much they've sprinted, how much distance they've covered, what kind of physical exertion they're going through. So they'll know which players are kind of getting towards the limits and they'll know who to start making changes. That's if the changes aren't purely tactical and are more physical, of course.
Here's Kenny on this right-hand side for Schalke. Switches the play out to Oksipka on that left-hand side. He carries the ball forward. Matondo's come onto this left-hand side for a little bit of joy, hopefully, from a Schalke perspective. But they've lost possession. Haaland dropping deep and doing some defensive work as well. Such a hard-working player.
I think he just gets bored without the ball and starts coming back looking for it.
Yes.
And he's such a presence even there. I mean, if he'd broken past that second player, Dortmund were away in transition again.
Absolutely. Balls with Roman Berkey at the moment in the Dortmund goal. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll be bringing you live coverage of Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich. Schalke pressing Dortmund's goalkeeper this time, but they didn't quite get the same result. Here is Brandt in possession now. Lovely switch of the play for Guerrero, who's come forward on this left-hand side. into the feet of Haaland. Back to Guerrero. Is he onside? He's finished it. Is it a fall for Dortmund? I think he was just slightly offside. Probably, actually, he looked miles offside, if we're being honest.
Looked offside.
He certainly looked offside.
It was that little delay from Haaland playing the ball through, I think, which again could just be the fact that they haven't played properly for a little while. Don't forget,
the players are celebrating. The players are celebrating. It's been given.
Has it been given a goal?
It has been
Shows
given.
what I know.
It certainly looked offside.
We'll
see from the VAR as well, won't we? But it certainly looked offside at first glance. Oh, maybe
no.
Kenny's playing him on. Kenny's playing him on.
That's very, very poor from Giorgio Kenny there, not to be reading the defensive line and stepping out in line with everybody else, and that's left his team fully exposed. You can see how one-footed Guerrero is, though, in the way that he tries to wrap his left foot around the ball there, but the ball went in at the end. And we talked about Haaland's ability to assist in the first half. We talked about the fact that at Salzburg he actually laid on quite a few goals for teammates, and there it is again.
And you know, the muted celebrations made it seem as though the goal hadn't been given, but it was given. Dortmund are 4 goals to the good. Guerrero getting his 6th and 7th goals of the season this afternoon.
Again, we saw Julian Brandt was key in that build-up, his ability to receive the ball, get away from a man, then switch the play into space, and then Guerrero from left wing back attacking forward. So once again, the importance of Brandt and the importance of the wing backs to this Dortmund team.
Absolutely, and it's a long, long road back for Schalke now, and they'll not be feeling great about themselves. This is a derby that means so much to the supporters, and although none of them can be in attendance, you can be sure they'll all be not gathered in groups, but they'll be watching it, won't they?
They will be. Very difficult. I mean, the situation for fans or for people that attend the games is obviously very different. I know that there was some unrest in Germany amongst the fan groups about the fact that football was restarting without them effectively, but that doesn't mean that they won't be supporting their team from wherever they can watch the game in safety.
Absolutely, but football is such a social sport, isn't it?
Yes.
That's such a huge part of it and why we love it. And to ask fans to not only not attend the games, but to not even be able to gather, with their friends and with the people that they go to the games with is such a big ask. But the circumstances warrant that, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, again, we completely understand why the situation is as it is, but in Germany especially, it's such a social event because of the culture around German football with fans and groups and the songs, the tifos, the colours, everything that you associate with German football. And that's all things that are missing at the moment. What we are seeing is the technical ability of footballers in the German game, the tactical ability in terms of playing in transition that we're seeing in full effect from Dortmund. So at least that side of the game's still there. It just means that we're not getting quite the full experience that we would otherwise.
Absolutely. Here come Dortmund once again looking for a 5th. It's Hakimi. Opportunity to shoot from the edge of the box. It's Guerrero now on the left-hand side. Stands it up at the far post, left-footed. Taken on the chest by Ogzipka there. Rather taking a risk there, wasn't he? But he dealt with it in the end. Dortmund come again, though.
The spaces are becoming even more pronounced now. You saw the time there that Guerrero had on the left-hand side. There's very little pressure put on him. This could get ugly for Schalke very quickly.
Here's Haaland. Can't quite squeeze the ball through there, though. Hakimi, who had gotten forward from that right-hand side, he drifted inside there. The ball breaks through all the way to Schubert, and he'll take that under control and give his team a breather for a couple of minutes. At least they can prevent another Dortmund onslaught for a moment or so. Dortmund are looking to make their first change. It's Belerdi who's ready there on the sidelines.
Interesting. A defensive player coming on. It'll be interesting to see who's coming off. But again, you can see how little movement there is ahead of the ball from Schalke. Yes, they're in spaces, they're in positions, but they're not making movements in or out to create pockets of space that can be exploited. And that's why the progression of the ball is so slow. Even now, that's just a hopeful ball over the top that's going nowhere. And instead of playing the ball at the feet in the final third from which they can play as a platform, which is what Dortmund do so well, and that's how they're breaking the penalty area. Schalke just seem to be a little bit low on ideas.
Absolutely. And Gary Simpson, who is watching us on YouTube, says, Schalke do not need changes. They need a miracle. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And interestingly, Dortmund have only had 4 shots on target, yet they've scored 4 goals. That just tells you a story about how clinical they are when they get in those positions. And that is why they've scored 60. Well, they had scored 68. It's now 72 goals in the Bundesliga in 26 games. That is remarkable.
It's interesting because before kickoff they had 68 goals, but that's from an XG and expected goals of only 42.87. So they're actually overperforming their expected goals by over 25 goals, which is quite some overperformance. And obviously that's now been added to by the 4 goals today.
Substitution's been made by Dortmund. Delaney making way for Balerdi. That will stop me getting him confused with Matt Hummels at least.
Maybe that's where the change was made.
That's it. I had a word.
Be interesting to see. I think Balerdi will probably play in midfield just in front of the defensive line. Traditionally, he's more of a centre back, so it'll be interesting to see the kind of role that he takes up.
Absolutely. Dortmund have a throw in on that far side.
You don't see Dortmund use their centre midfielders that much in possession. Dahoud and Delaney really haven't been that involved. A couple of little touches from Dahoud in terms of picking the ball up from the centre halves, but they progress through the centre halves and not through the midfield, and that's completely evident here.
Just seen some pictures on your screens of Delaney receiving a mask, having come off of the pitch. Interesting to see that they're making a real point, aren't they, of sticking to the rules, which is great. And I guess this will give hope to those who are looking to restart their leagues, to see, fingers crossed, that this can, continue without any problems. Fingers crossed it is subject to, of course, people being tested regularly, and hopefully we don't get any bad news. But, I mean, it gives a bit of hope to the other leagues, doesn't it?
I think so. I think we touched upon the fact that this was kind of a test case for the other leagues that are looking to restart at the moment to see whether the Bundesliga could get going and could do it safely with player safety and everyone involved with the match and the match day, their safety being paramount. So a lot of people will be very hopeful that this remains the case.
Schalke have a free kick just outside the Dortmund penalty area to the right-hand side of the penalty area. The foul committed there by Dahoud. On Bergstaller, the man who came on at half-time for David Wagner's side. Couple of Schalke players standing over the ball, one of them being Harit. Amine Harit is one of those men. The other one is Okzipka, the left footer. This suits a left footer, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Delivered with the right, though. And there was McKennie coming in at that far post, but he couldn't quite make contact. And after a wayward effort, the danger passes. At least temporarily, anyway. David Wagner turns to his bench. Why is it that the staff on the bench are wearing masks and David Wagner isn't?
That's a good point. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Perhaps it's, again, we talked about the fact that the players on the pitch couldn't wear masks because it will impede communication. The same could be said for the coaches. Obviously, they're in constant communication with the players on the pitch, so chances are that's why.
Makes sense.
And I would imagine that the coaches will be given dispensation to follow the players and not wearing them.
Makes sense. Here's Matt Hummels now. Akanji on the left-hand side of this Dortmund defence into Guerrero, who's got 2 today, showing the kind of impact he can make even from the wing-back position, and showing as well how key that position is to Lucien Favre's system and the way that this Borussia Dortmund side play. Let's talk a little bit about Lucien Favre. Of course, he's managed Hertha Berlin, Borussia Mönchengladbach, more recently Nice. Is this a job in where he can prove himself, probably a little bit more than he has in previous years? Has he got the platform here to go that step further with Borussia Dortmund?
In terms of infrastructure of the club, potentially that could be the case, but Favre has been a coach who has done extremely well in periods whenever he's been, especially at Borussia Mönchengladbach for a period of time when I believe they qualified for Europe and they were doing extremely well towards the top of the Bundesliga. And then he had a season where fortunes reversed and they were struggling towards the relegation zone, and that's where he actually tendered his resignation. And when he tendered his resignation, fans, the board, players, everybody asked him to reconsider. They all wanted him to stay, so they were all fans of the way that he his game model and how he played the game. So he has had opportunities in the past at clubs where he's built things and he's looked like he was building towards something really, really special before things went wrong. Same was it was true in France with Nice, where for a period his Nice team were extremely expansive and were getting plaudits all over the place for the way they played football, and that's kind of what opened him up to coming back to Germany for the Dortmund job. But since Jurgen Klopp left, the Dortmund job's been a difficult one for anybody because any coach is naturally held up against Klopp in terms of the way the team play and the way that the coaches behave, if you like, and the way they react. So he's certainly doing a good job. And this season, I think that Dortmund are perhaps outperforming expectations, being second in the league and looking like they're going to challenge to the very end.
Absolutely. And as we said, when they took the lead, there's a yellow card there being given to Lucas Piszczek, the Dortmund defender. Just went to ground there, used his arm to block the pass from McKennie. Just going back to that point, though, we talk about Dortmund winning this game and the fact that means they do close the gap on Bayern at the top to just 1 point. Of course, Bayern have a game in hand, which is tomorrow against Union Berlin, a game that we'll be covering here via the Hot Mic app. To do join us for that as well. But it just adds a bit of pressure to Bayern, doesn't it, going into that game? And we know they're favourites for that game, but having the points on the board, of course, does make it a more significant game for Bayern and turn up the heat just a little bit.
It does, but that's where Bayern thrive. I mean, they're always the kind of team who do well when they're under pressure. They want to prove people wrong, and they certainly don't like losing. So I wouldn't think that it'll affect the mentality of this Bayern team that much.
Schalke have a corner. She's going to be delivered by Oxzipka, the left-footed wing-back, full-back, whatever you want to call him. Delivered into the penalty area. Met by a Schalke head, and it's over the bar. It was Sane who got his head to it. Having a look at the replay. He jumped well.
He did. Sane and Nastasic are both a threat from these set plays. They're extremely powerful, good in the air, and they tend to attract Dortmund players towards them.
Goal kick taken short, and we see Schalke with that high press again, and Dortmund need to play their way out of it. Here come Dortmund looking to stage another attack of their own. It's a ball in behind in search of Haaland, but it's a little bit overhit, and it will go out for a Schalke throw-in.
Dortmund are tiring a little bit now. You can see Haaland's looking a little bit heavier, a little bit slower when he's trying to break through there, and Julian Brandt with a way to pass off. I think that's potentially down to a little bit of fatigue as well, so it won't be long till we see another change, I don't think.
I think you're right. Here comes Schalke once more. Ball's broken on this right-hand side. Well, Caliguri, he's been quieter these last few minutes. I mean, he was never overly active in this game, but it seems like Schalke have given up hope, and can you blame them? 4-0 down, 15 minutes to go. It's not been an afternoon to remember, has it?
No, it's a difficult situation for them now. I think this is a point where, I mean, we have seen scorelines turn around from this kind of position before, but it doesn't happen very often. And that's because you need to see a real run towards Schalke having won 2 goals very quickly to have any chance at all.
Schalke are going to make a change, and it is Caliguri. After we've just been speaking about him, he's replaced by number 3, Miranda. So surreal. Walking past a bench of people spread 2 meters apart. It is so strange, isn't it?
We don't see the normal high fives and handshakes when players come off, that's for sure.
The pats on the back, the sharing of jackets and bottles of water. None of that. Dortmund in possession with Piszczek at the moment. Switches the play. Taken on the chest by Akanji, who lays it off to Guerrero on this left-hand side. It's back with Akanji now.
Now you can see Schalke hardly pressing at all and not moving out towards the ball. All Dortmund are going to do at this point is just look to maintain the ball at this space and try and drag them out towards them to open that space up. They'll quite happily play the ball back, and there we go into the half space again.
.76 minutes played. Dortmund 4, Schalke 0. Game's got on David Wagner's side. I think it's safe to say that now.
But definitely. And again, we'll just see Dortmund, balls being kicked out. They were just going to keep possession there. It's interesting just to touch quickly on Lucas Piszczek, the right-sided centre-back for Dortmund. This change to a back three has kind of opened up a new lease of life in his career. He's obviously a right-back under Jurgen Klopp, a rampaging attacking right-back, and now he's got that right-sided centre-back role. He looks very comfortable.
And we've seen that transition as well, haven't we, from other players when they've got to sort of the later stages of their career. And if I think of a Premier League example, Cesar Azpilicueta is one who made a very good, very comfortable transition from a right back to a right centre back. Nacho Monreal did it for Arsenal as well, moving from a left back to a left centre back. So it feels like a bit of a natural progression for a right back, doesn't it?
It's one that players who are naturally tactically intelligent will make. It's more difficult for players who rely purely on their physical game to make that transition because you're looking for them. It's different pictures when you don't have the ball, for example. I think we might see Jadon Sancho about to be introduced.
Yep, it looks that way. And it's Hazard who's going to make way. Of course, it was his brilliant cross that was turned in by Haaland to open the scoring this afternoon, but he's going to be replaced as a touch of the elbows there between him and Jadon Sancho, who comes on, the former Manchester City man.
4-0 down now, Schalke. I've got Jadon Sancho coming on for the last 10 minutes to run at them. I don't envy their centre defenders at all.
Not what they'd like to see, is it? 78 minutes played, 4-0 down. Last thing you want to see is Jadon Sancho coming on.
It's interesting because in this Dortmund system, he doesn't play as a winger, which is obviously what we expect and what most people tend to associate him as. Jadon Sancho plays in that same kind of role that Julian Brandt does, and he tries to occupy the half spaces to get on the ball. You'll see him drift from left to right. If you look at his heat map for the season, he plays on both sides, and he's extremely effective whenever he picks the ball up in those spaces. So now Dortmund have Brandt and Sancho able to pick the ball up in that kind of area.
God help Schalke as they come forward on this left-hand side. Matondo, once again, he's come out onto that left-hand side. He's been making that movement quite often in the last 15 minutes or so.
He's just trying to affect play. He's trying to make something happen for his team, which is great to see from such a young player.
Ball's come off the referee there, rather unfortunately for Schalke. They have the ball back now. Here's Sane in the centre circle, just inside the Dortmund half.
Again, you can see the centre-backs don't progress the ball well. That they're looking for the short passes instead of playing forward the way Dortmund would, and that slows everything down.
Would you say that Matt Hummels is particularly good at that, and that's why he's so key?
In terms of defenders in the Bundesliga, he's right up there, just behind David Alaba, who we talked about at halftime at Bayern Munich, and being able to do that. But his ability to pick a pass and progress the ball, it's something that Manuel Akanji can do as well. And that's a reason why he's favoured in this Dortmund team, the ability to step out and play the ball forward. But you see Schalke, when they're in possession, they seem short on ideas. And that's because they're not threatening with that forward progressive ball, and that's why they're not being pressed that aggressively.
Ball out to this left-hand side as Schalke looks to try and add some respect to the scoreline at the very least. 4-0 down in the Riviera derby. Matondo looking to make something happen. He's appealing for a foul just outside the Borussia Dortmund penalty area. But once again, the referee Dennis Aytekin waves play on. Here's a Kanji at the back for Dortmund under a little bit of pressure. But they work the ball well. Here's Julian Brandt. Hakimi back inside. Don't forget, if you're tuned in, if you're watching us via the Hot Mic app and you haven't given Total Football Analysis a follow yet, make sure you do. It's just a touch of one button. You'll be following us, and that way you'll never miss a broadcast. We're back, of course, tomorrow with Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich. If you haven't downloaded the app yet and you're listening via YouTube, please do so and use the promo code TFA2020. Here's a Kanji, plays it back to Roman Berkey. Just been pointed out in the live chat as well, Lee, that you wrote a brilliant piece actually on defenders progressing the ball out. So people, please do check that out as Hakimi puts the ball across the penalty area. It's just too long for Haaland to get a foot to and turn it in, but the danger is still there. Schalke playing rather dangerously inside their own penalty area, but the ball smashed clear in the end by Schubert. But that is a piece worth checking out. Lee's one on ball progressing defenders. It's over on totalfootballanalysis.com. Head over there. Don't forget to give Total Football Analysis a follow on Twitter as well. The details are on your screen.
That the piece in question is one that was written with data called parking data. Parking is a data that is produced primarily in Germany. It's a German company called Impact that do it, and they do so to calculate the amount of times a pass is played by a player beyond opposition players. So just exactly what we're talking about, those progressive passes. And Impact were kind enough to share some data with us, which is what that piece is built around.
Brilliant stuff. I'll be sure to have a read. Just around about 7 minutes remaining plus stoppage time. All played forward again once again, from Schalke. Dortmund have possession back again as the Schalke players turn and reluctantly jog back towards their own goals.
Everybody was in space again on the left-hand side there. If Dortmund had been able to switch the ball quickly, there was nobody with them at all because Schalke were that slow in getting back.
Absolutely, and you can imagine that both teams are running on empty at the moment, given the long layoff, given the circumstances, and particularly when you're 4-0 down, it can't be helpful either. So,
absolutely,
they'll be wanting this final whistle to come. It's Balerdi.
Balerdi's done well since he came on in midfield. He's shown good feet a couple of times to get in possession and to move the point of attack for his team. So he seems to have settled in very quickly and very well.
Absolutely. Looks extremely comfortable in the middle of the park, considering he's primarily a centre-back as well.
Yeah, signed as a centre-back out of Argentina. That's where he played most of his football before signing for Dortmund. So he's obviously another one of these defenders who is comfortable in possession and can play a couple of different positions, which is crucial in terms of squad development and squad build. And if you've got tactically versatile players, it could be a huge boost.
Absolutely. Schalke looking to find a way to breach that Dortmund defence. Can't remember Roman Bürki having to make a save, actually. Well, a difficult one anyway. He might have to now as the ball's delivered into the penalty area, but the danger is dealt with. Here's Hummels now.
The tempo is so slow now. You can see that everything's just becoming more stretched and a little bit looser in terms of pass completion, in terms of moving into spaces. Everything's just slowed right down.
Here's Matondo. Steps inside two players. Looks to shift it onto his left foot. Can he get a shot away? It's a great challenge from Matt Hummels there. And then there's a foul on the edge of the penalty area. And it'll go Dortmund's way this time. What a challenge that was from Matt Hummels, though.
Yeah, key, very dangerous challenge. You could have quite easily given away a penalty there. Matondo has very quick feet and manipulates the ball really well. But again, we see the difference that Matondo's made since he came on. He's looking positive. He's looking to get the ball and he's looking to run at defenders, and that's all you can ask, especially from such a young player. Although he's just picked up a yellow card for that.
He has indeed, and probably rightly so. Let's have another look at it. Yeah, he's gone in on Hakimi there. Looks like he's just brushed the ankle with his studs.
Yeah,
not
certainly enough. That scissor movement as the foot comes around. That's a real issue.
Dortmund making another change. It's Dahoud who's going to make way.
Schalke as well.
Schalke making one too. For Schalke, it's Becker who's come on to replace Kenny. And for Dortmund, it is Mario Götze. Come on for Dahoud. How's Mario Götze been doing this season? Of course, famously scored that goal in the World Cup final, didn't he? He's been a real talent, but his career's somewhat stuttered, hasn't it?
I think the move to Bayern at the time was potentially an error. We talked earlier on about how important it was that Erling Haaland had the right advice to progress his career properly. But I think perhaps Götze was poorly advised at some point with that move to Bayern Munich. Certainly never came off He did, and he has had issues with illness. I can't recall exactly what the illness is, but it is something that was significant and which affected his ability to train properly and it affected his
Hmm.
conditioning more than anything else. But from a technical point of view, he's still an extremely good footballer. We've seen him move deeper. He doesn't quite play as a 10 or the winger. And for a time at Bayern Munich, it was thought he was going to become that false nine, the position that Messi played for Barcelona under Pep Guardiola. But now we're more likely to see him moving a little bit deeper into midfield where he can control the ball.
Absolutely. Schmelz has also come on for Guerrero just while we were talking there. Dortmund, 57% of the possession compared to Schalke's 43%. They've had 11 shots. Schalke have managed 8. Not a great deal of difference there, but in terms of putting their chances away, Dortmund have made sure they've done that at every opportunity.
Yeah, and that just refers again to the fact we said that Dortmund aren't a possession-based team, that they're not interested in possession for possession's sake. Every time they get the ball, they're looking to attack forward in quick transitions into space. And that's what we've seen from them. That's where their possession is quite close between the two teams. But you can say for certain that Dortmund have been far more effective with the possession that they've had.
Nice pass there from Berkey into the midfield. Brandt was there to receive it. Here's Haaland, lays it off to Schmelzer. Schalke win possession back though and have the ball on this right-hand side. Here come the visitors once more into the 89th minute here at Signal Iduna Park. Previously known as the Westfalen-Stadion. That's what I've always known it as.
Same. One of those quirks is stadiums become known as slightly different things for various reasons.
Sponsorship.
You're always stuck with what you originally called it in your head.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Schalke with a corner now. Harit will take it. Very talented player, Amine Harit, but he's not been too effective this afternoon. But Schalke haven't been in general. They've got an opportunity here, though. Ball's back with Harit on this right-hand side. Looks to skip past the challenge of the Dortmund defender, but he's dispossessed. And the home side look to work their way out of trouble here. Risky football once again. But having watched this game this afternoon, it's something clearly that Dortmund do, and Dortmund do very, very well.
Yes, they do. It's one of the things that we'll see going forward as we cover more Bundesliga games as well. I think that at some point next week we're planning to look at Bayer Leverkusen against Borussia Mönchengladbach. If you think that Dortmund are progressive and transitional in their attack, just wait till you watch Leverkusen play. That's pretty much all that they do.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I haven't watched a great deal of Bundesliga football in my time, but I've really enjoyed this one and really enjoyed watching it alongside someone with such great and extensive knowledge of the league and all the players and the managers and the coaches. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Really enjoyed it. And I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed your analysis and insight too. Schalke have a throw in, on that right-hand side. But the whistle's gone at the Signal Iduna Park. I had to think there not to say Westfalen-Stadion. It's Borussia Dortmund 4, Schalke 0. It's all over and a day to forget for David Wagner's side.
I think we could comfortably say it was a fully deserved win for Dortmund. At no point really did Schalke threaten them in any meaningful way, at least until Dortmund were a couple of goals ahead. And then when Schalke did threaten, we saw Dortmund were able to break very quickly and transition to create chances of their own. Extremely, extremely positive from Dortmund to be able to come back after the pause in action that's been caused by this pandemic and then to find their feet so quickly again in a derby as well against one of their fiercest rivals. So I've enjoyed that victory.
Absolutely. That brings us to the end of our live broadcast, Borussia Dortmund versus Schalke. It's been a great game. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching it in all of your company and, of course, in the brilliant Lee Scott's company as well. Don't forget to check out Total Football Analysis. There'll be a tactical breakdown of this fixture available in the coming days. And we're back tomorrow with another live broadcast. We'll be looking at Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich. So come and join us for that. If you haven't signed up to the app already, please do so using the code TFA 2020. The Dortmund players are applauding. Nobody in the stands, it looks like. Nice gesture. I guess it's to the staff that that are there and that have maybe the risk is controlled, but there is still some risk, so They deserve applause, I suppose,
I
for
think it's potentially symbolic as well. They're aware that their fans aren't there, but their fans are supporting them from wherever they're able to watch the game. So I think this is just a way that Dortmund are able to show the fans that they appreciate them,
exactly, and
and
the
they're
cheer in
obviously
front of the
social
fans.
distancing while they're doing this. So
Exactly, 2 meters apart. Brilliant stuff. Great touch from Borussia Dortmund, and that will be making memes all over the world this evening, I'm sure. My thanks to Lee Scott. Lee, thank you so much for joining me. It's been fantastic, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have.
I have. It's been great. Thanks very much, Harry. Really enjoyed this and appreciate your company for the game. Hopefully, we'll be able to do this a lot more going forward. And at some point, we might start getting other analysts from Total Football Analysis on as well with you, just to share the love a little bit and let them come on and discuss the game and share their expertise.
Absolutely, and I'm sure in time we'll have some more talented. Not that I am, but we'll have some more talented commentators coming through as well on this fantastic platform. A big thank you to every single one of you who has joined us, whether it be on YouTube or the Hot Mic app. We'll be back very, very soon with more. In fact, incredibly soon, tomorrow. So please do check us out. Union Berlin versus Bayern Munich coming to you live via Total Football Analysis. And you can expect plenty more expert insight from our main man, Lee. Until next time, take care and stay safe.